yeah, because obviously you just had chemo recently. How's that?
Yeah, so where I'm up to at the moment is my last scan was really positive. So my last scan showed no cancer visible on the scan. There's a little bit of area of concern in the liver, but they think it might be a cyst, but they're going to do further tests on that. But all my bloods are in normal range. So for where I need to be, it's the best place. But what they've said is don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah,
Just it's cancer. At the end of the day, it could quite quickly come back. It can be aggressive at times. So I've got to keep having chemotherapy. I have it every two
yeah,
weeks. If I get a good scan next time, they may possibly drop one of the drugs off or change the cycle from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, just to give me my body a bit more of a bit more time to recover, because obviously I'm getting good results. But then I'm also a bit skeptical to say, right now it's working, do I really want to take that chance? But at the same
yeah.
time, you've got to listen to the experts. That's where I'm up to in terms of treatment wise. So yeah, the best I can be right now. So just going
I
to run
guess
with the
this is
positives.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's definitely I like about you most is definitely because I wouldn't say you don't have it's not I'm not going to use the term blind positivity because like but you have like a sense of realization, everything isn't okay and you kind of that, but at the same time the way I'm speaking to you now, I can hear in your voice, it's not all doom and gloom. There is like kind of, I guess that's why I would use the term inspiration almost, but you know
Yeah,
you definitely, the way you come across is uplifting for for someone like me, and I guess about like anything, the way you talk about things, you're shining light on an issue that you're just creating a narrative that needs to be spoken about, because cancer talk must be hard, but it's something at the same time you kind of want to share. And I wish I had those conversations with my mum. I never did,
yeah,
because maybe I was a bit young and maybe I
yeah,
didn't really want to hear it, but it was something, towards the end we maybe spoke a bit more. But yeah,
yeah,
there is definitely a harshness that, but it doesn't need to be difficult. Well, difficult, yes it is, but it doesn't need to be ignored completely. And
yeah.
I can hear the way you come across. It's really lovely
Do,
to hear.
do you know what I think it is, Joe? I think, and I'm sure your mum had it as well, is I think a lot of it is down to like you always hope that you're going to be one of the lucky ones. So
Yeah,
when I first got diagnosed, I was really down about it, and then over time, my mindset got stronger and stronger. And the way I kind of looking at it is don't get me wrong, I'm a realist, and I know like the percentage chances for me being stage 4, I think there's 1 in 10 people will live past 5 years. And I see so often around me, like, you've seen it recently with like in the last few days with Deborah James.
I was gonna ask, but
Yeah, and she's gone through. She's in a very always in a very similar position. Like I think 18 months ago, she was showing no evident disease, something around that. So it shows you how quickly it can change, and it's quite hard to kind of see that happen and then not get dragged into that. But I
yeah,
also have to remember that everyone's cancer journey is different, and as I say, it comes back to hope. So what I've now got drummed into my head is, until somebody literally turns around to me and says, "There's nothing more we can do for you," will be the day when I maybe will go into being like, I don't know, a shrinking violet, and maybe I will go in within myself. But right
yeah,
now, I'm just trying to believe in the process and believe, like I said, it all. Everyone always says, "What's the magic thing with cancer?" And I just think a lot of it comes down to luck.
yeah,
You saw the positivity from, say, Deborah James. She wasn't, she had all the fight in the world, but unfortunately she didn't have the luck at the end of the day.
yeah.
But at the same time, she's passed on amazing. She's give back so much, and her legacy will live on, which I'm sure that will be part of what she wanted to achieve when she set out
Yeah.
to do what she did. So
Well, you've touched on two things. Well, there's something. First of all, you used the word hope, and I actually, that's something I've been thinking about quite a lot. And I spoke about it with someone recently, and for me, there was that sense of hope was something that really, what basically was the epitome of my mum's journey. The fact that she had this hope and this undeniable kind of this almost belief that she was going to be okay was what kind of kept her you know, the way she was, kept her,
Yeah.
you know, despite continuous chemo scans, despite continuous bad results. It was that hope that essentially, you know, allowed her to battle for 11 years. And then it was when that hope essentially died, and, you know, it became almost accepting her fate.
Acceptance. Yeah.
The transition from was, you know, kind of rapid.
Hmm.
And so I guess that kind of quite, you know, it kind of, you question, well, not, it's not so much question, but it's more of a way how much powerful the mind is, in characteristic with your body, and how, you know, the two in tandem when they work together, you know, that in itself, you know, you might have a different viewpoint on that, but I'm definitely under the belief that that was her, you know, mind, and the strength she had was
Yeah.
what, you know, fortified her body in a way.
Hmm. I know, I completely agree with you. I think positive mindset is so important in it, because I think if you automatically go defeated, I think if you like wallow and you stay at home, and that's only gonna, your mind's gonna switch off and your body's gonna switch off from it. So you've just got to keep yourself as active as possible and positive as possible for me in these situations. But I would, you know, I would say, like, in terms of, like you said, I think hope is what, even, it doesn't even have to be a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah,
Hope in terms of in life is everything. It's dreams, it's belief, isn't it? And it comes back to hope. And as you say, you know, 11 years for your mum to battle cancer is unbelievable, and that just shows, like, testament to her, and you said, the will and positivity, you know, to keep going and keep fighting, because, you know, it would be very easy to give up at times. And I've
yeah,
found that sometimes, you know, it's been through operations and I'll go to dark places, but I always believe there's always going to be sun after the rain, without sounding
yeah.
like a cliche. You've just got to believe that, because if you don't, you know, you'll just get swallowed up. So
So this might be a weird question, but what is it like being told, you know, you have cancer? You know, what is that initial moment sitting there and someone says, you know, this is what you have? What is that?
I mean, I've had a few moments in terms of the initial diagnosis was when I had a colonoscopy, and to be fair, I kind of sat on tests. The doctors wanted me to have blood tests, and I sat on them for about 3 or 4 months, and that's why I'm so passionate about raising awareness for bowel cancer, to ensure that people don't delay. I eventually started passing blood in my stool, and I went for a colonoscopy, which was probably 6, 7 months further down the line. And when they told me initially, I was in a little bit of shock, but I wasn't like panicked too much, because my mum had bowel cancer and she caught it at stage 2. She had an operation, albeit she had a tough time. So I thought, you know, I can deal with this. It was only when I had further scans, and it basically said it was in my liver. It spread to my liver, and I knew it was stage 4. Then you go on to Dr. Google, and then you start seeing it. And then I speak to the oncologist, and he tells me it's not good. And then I think further down the line, I got sepsis, and I managed to fight through that. And I shouldn't have really made that, but I did. But I come out a month or so later, and I spoke to my oncologist, and he said, unfortunately, it's spread now to your stomach lining. So it was like blow after blow. And it was
Yeah.
that was probably the hardest part, the first 6 months, because I had other issues going on, like I say, sepsis, and I had heart issues caused by
And
chemotherapy.
was this all resulting from the chemo? So
It
the
was, well, the initial thing was, the first chemo session I had. Funny story, but I had chemotherapy on the Friday. On the Saturday, and this isn't related, by the way, I went on the Saturday to do a park run because I felt fine. It's the first chemo. I thought, you know, I'm not going to let this stop me. Did the park run, and then days later, I started to get like a heavy sensation in my arm and my throat, and it was just getting worse and worse. I was getting breathless. So they said, go up to hospital. And it turned out that I was cardiotoxic. So I was basically allergic to the chemotherapy drug they were giving me. So I
Oh
was
wow.
literally, they said, if I hadn't come in, if I'd have been 12 hours later, I probably would have had a major heart attack. But thankfully I got
Wow.
in. And then a month after that, my bowel blocked with the cancer that was in the intestine. And what happened was they put a stent in to basically open my bowel up. But the stent perforated my bowel, and straight away I was in so much agony. Anyway, they sent me down for emergency surgery, and I unfortunately contracted sepsis, and my whole family were told like I wouldn't make the evening. I was in a coma for about 4 or 5 days, and then I've come through. and literally were dropped down to under 10 stone. I had to learn to walk again. It was just like I was
Yeah.
in hospital for about 6-7 weeks. So that was all within the first, that was probably 3 months after me being diagnosed with cancer. And then obviously, like I said, I got told after that it spread to my stomach lining. So it was like, what's going to happen next, really? And it was just that was the toughest time of what
Yeah.
I've had so far, really. So
Well, one of the things that actually resonate with me more than anything, well, I don't know if resonate's the right word, but it's not just a physical journey. It's also mental. Having
yeah,
going through all of that, that is an insatiable toll on like one's psyche. Like to go, I've had a fair setbacks in life, nothing on the same level, but setbacks, you know, and my response to setbacks, it's something you learn, but after getting constantly knocked back and back, how did you maintain uh, well, a sense like a level-headedness? Like how did you kind of not be disastrously affected by what was going on, and kind of maintain this, I don't know, this positivity, or this this hope
yeah,
that we kind of
yeah.
speak of?
I think two things played a big part in it. I think, well, three things. One is surround yourself with good people and good family and friends who are gonna bring you up and give you positivity. There was I would also say that after that scan, when I got told, like basically when I got told to spread to my stomach line, the oncologist said you're literally looking at months left to live. So I left there like that was the lowest point.
Yeah.
But then when I got my plan and I got onto chemotherapy, it was really strange. So since then, obviously I've had blows since, but since then, in the main, it's been on an upward trajectory, i.e. the chemotherapy started to work. I got referred to the Christie in Manchester to give me liver surgery, which I was told was off the table. So I went for liver surgery and then went for a further surgery, which is called HIPAC, where they remove the cancer from your stomach lining and put chemotherapy in at 40 degrees, pump it around your stomach, which is just amazing. So I've literally, as I say, I've had 4 major surgeries, apart from a bowel blockage I had in December, when again I lost a lot of weight and I was in hospital for a long period and I had to have emergency surgery. Apart from that, everything feels like it's on the up. And then I've
Yeah.
started again on chemotherapy. And then again, I get told I've got good news, and I'm showing no evident disease in my scans. So I'm kind of riding the crest of a wave. So, right, what I would say is the positivity has come from the results that I've been getting, if that makes sense. So if I wasn't getting the good results, then maybe I wouldn't be as positive. And then the final thing is I've done a lot of stuff in relation to local community charity
Yeah.
work and so on. And that's also been a very, it gives me a bit of justification for why
Yeah.
this has happened to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely looking at that, and I think there is no reason for you to be charitable. Well, of course we all want to be charitable, but when you look at going through something, it would be quite easy to sit in and just kind of feel sorry for yourself. And I think we all have done that at some point in our lives, but to turn something which is inherently, why do you think that is? I look at the, like like you said, Deborah, and everything, the amazing work
Yeah.
she did, and yourself, and with the DBB team, DBB, what do you think that is, like, that kind of pushes people towards that work when there is no real need to do that, if that
Yeah,
makes
there's
sense?
somebody told me the name for it, and because I've had chemo, I keep getting chemo brain,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
it's
like
fine.
forget things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's a word for it, which someone may be able to comment on. But basically, what happens is if you go through a bad experience, some people will use that experience to drive them to then do good, and it's all like, I think it comes down to maybe getting justification in the head to kind of justify why is this happening to me. So ultimately, I feel like I've been given. It's almost like it kind of feels like this was meant to be my journey, and
Okay.
it almost feels like this is the purpose of it. So a few friends surprised me with Team DDB shirts on, and they basically said, we're going to do pretty muddy event. And then since then, I just looked at it and went, we've got something here, and we can make
Yeah.
more of it. And we put it onto social media, and we're fast approaching £100,000 raise for the local
Wow.
community,
That's
which
amazing.
is unbelievable. So it just snowballed, and as I said, I think it comes down to maybe I wanted a legacy from it, thinking I didn't have long, and then as I've kind of going through the years, it's been growing and growing. And then, like I said, I keep going back to it, but justification for
Yeah.
why this has happened to me, and it just helps with my mindset that I've got a platform and I can use it, and people can ultimately be, if they if they feel they are inspired by it, and then they get involved, and it just creates this big it creates awareness for bowel cancer, but it also creates this great community spirit. And
Yeah.
it's been phenomenal. I can't even explain to you how it makes me feel, how
Yeah.
people have been with it. So
I mean, the work is absolutely fantastic, and it's a true credit to yourself, and obviously the people around you supporting you. There's a word you use, legacy, and I think that was also an incredibly important word for my mom. One of the things she said was, I hope she wants to leave a legacy, and it's partially why I started this, because I wanted to talk about her. But do you think when someone is, now this might be a hard question, actually, the question kind of shifted, but someone going through, having, stage 4 cancer, do you think about death, more so? Like, what is that something you think about, or, do you not at all?
I
Like,
I
what's your
did.
relationship with that?
Yeah, I did. Do you know what it is? I think because I survived sepsis, there's part of me where I kind of feel like this is extra time anyway. Like I
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. Like literally, the
Fergie
percentage
time.
chances of me, basically, yeah. And that's a great analogy for me as well, being a
Yeah.
United fan. But ultimately, yeah, it's that thing of, I think there's part of me where I feel like I'm lucky to be here because I shouldn't have survived sepsis. But at the same time, I don't know. It does. I used to like go on walks around the park, put my music on, and and occasionally I do go back to that place, but I'd think about what songs I would play at my funeral and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I do have it in the back of my mind, and it might be harsh for people to, I'm under no illusions. Like if, I'm 41 now, and, in my head, I'm literally looking that I'll probably live for another few years just based on stats and so on. And that is it. I've kind of come, and as I say, if someone turned around to me and says nothing more you can do for you, then I'm sure I'd go to a dark place. But like you said before, it's almost, I also feel like it's building up to where that would be there'll be an acceptance there, because when you say with cancer, there's that thing of, and I'm sure your mum had it, it's that thing of where you truly cherish every single day. And I
Yeah.
can't, and where before, when I didn't have cancer, I just, at times I'd float, and you just didn't think about the impact that it would have on you. So I think there's that thing of just living every day. I feel fortunate in that, because somebody could literally go and get in a car accident tonight,
Yeah.
not make it, but ultimately it almost feels like I not know what's coming, because obviously, like I said earlier, I've got hope, and I hope I am one of the lucky ones, and I can live for years and years. And I do reach 50 and 60, but also I've got to be realistic and
Yeah.
kind of say that I'm fighting a real battle, that
Yeah.
where percentage wise, there's not many people who will live longer than 5 years. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there
I
is that
mean,
realism.
yeah, I mean, really, powerful stuff. And I think it takes it, speaking about cancer, and in it about yourself in that manner takes, a real, that is incredibly hard. It's something I know from watching my mum, was something she really couldn't talk about, because that whole idea of I eventually passing is something she couldn't digest, and that's pretty normal. Obviously the reason I wanted to ask that question, and I know it's probably a difficult one, is just because you know it was about that whole perspective that you kind of actually alluded to, and that whole idea that life is incredibly precious. That is that does that phrase itself doesn't mean you need to go and do run naked, do the marathon naked, or do crazy things. It could also just mean appreciate every little thing. Like a
thing.
conversation like this is something
Yeah.
I'm heavily gonna walk away from today, and like, wow, like that was an amazing chat, and I'm so thankful for that. And that's just what it means as well. Like sometimes I think before this trauma or my loss occurred, a lot of things that are precious and really should be looked at in such a nice way, you don't really think about. You don't think about those conversations you have with a mate after 2 years of not seeing them or whatever, things like that.
Yeah.
Or even someone you see all the time, because like you said, you really don't know when you're the clock the clock runs out. And
No.
when you have that perspective, I think also your attitude towards other people kind of changes. And it brings up the term kindness. Now I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that term like is significant to you. I think it's quite significant to me, but like
Yeah.
if I were to say to you, like, what does kindness mean to you, like how would you kind of digest that word?
I just kindness is probably the biggest thing that's come. Like that's what I was going to say is like I find when we talk about like your when we talk about how it's affected you and so on, and you live for the moment. One of the things I try to get across to people is to try and be like ambitious, be the best version of you can be. And again, some of it sounds cliches, but when you're in a situation like mine, you almost want to shake people sometimes and say, one of the things that like everyone has different strengths. Some people are academic, some people are really good at solving problems. For me, and I've always found it is, even before I had cancer, is my strength is kindness. And other people's are. And I always say, encourage people, if you're a kind person, try and do that, because the feeling you get from being kind to someone is amazing. So for example, with Team DDB, we were donating money to charities for a lot of the time, but there was nothing you could physically feel. And obviously they use the money to great use. I'm not saying they don't. There's nothing you could physically feel. So what we started to do was we started to do what we call random acts of kindness. And the idea being is we'd identify someone within the local community who's been through a tough time, and we would ultimately, with the fundraising, we would pay for them to go on a day out, go for a meal, go to Alton Towers, do whatever it may well be.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to take them away from the day-to-day pressures, the day-to-day strains of living, and just basically make them smile. And I'm not kidding you, Joe. It's been the best thing I've ever done, and to see what happens with that. And for me, I think in the world in which we live in, kindness is so underrated. And like I said, like I watched the YouTube video and I did it myself. And I'm not here self-promoting, but I saw somebody. I watched the guy whose supporters called Beard Meets Food, and I don't know if you've seen him on YouTube, but anyway, I saw him, and he paid for somebody behind him in McDonald's to their food. So I thought, you know what, I just try it. And I'd literally, when I drove off, there was an eldish couple, and they were like waving, and he was so happy. And I just thought, like, I don't know, I can't explain to you how it made me feel. Do you know what I mean? And I say, it's not self-promotion, but what I'm trying to get across is just try it. If you've never done something like that before, it doesn't have to be that. Just try it, because the way in which it makes you feel, there's no feeling like it. And that to me is kindness.
And you know what also is so important about that is kindness creates a sort of ripple effect. If the way you treat someone, that is going to sit with that person out. The person you took out to Alton Towers, despite okay, maybe not the best example, but being when something is done that isn't nice, you almost want to, like you said, give back to someone else, and it creates like a whole chain, and at the end of the day, that's essentially all we can ask for in our communities that we're part of, or friendship groups. It's just those small acts that might be significant, or they could just be, you know, a little thing like, yeah, listen, mate, I've got the bill tonight, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
You know, something as small as that. But like, you know, kindness is such a, you know, it's such an appreciated phenomenon, and something that I think everyone should have in their toolbox. And you know, not, I think it's definitely, when you look at things, you know, from you know, in a corporate way, things that is definitely undervalued, and definitely kind of, definitely, well, yeah, as I said, undervalued, and it really kind of takes away from what makes us human. Because like, I think essentially what makes us human is that, you know, that connection, that social connection we have with people. And you know, when we don't have that sense of kindness, and we're looking to, you know, rise up the corporate chain quicker by, you know, bullying, that not bullying, but like, you know, eating off the competition around us, you forget what makes us human, and what makes us, you know, who we are. And like I said, I just think it's such an important thing for people to have in their toolbox, you know. And that
yeah,
doesn't mean you need to be, you know, kind all the time, because that can,
no,
you know, is really draining. But
yeah.
yeah, I do think
And I think the thing is, Joe, the other thing as well is you just don't you a lot with mental health. I know we've talked about that in when we've done a previous podcast, but you don't know what other people are dealing with as well. Like you don't know what's going on in people's lives, and you automatically assume that they're okay. So if you can do some form of random act of kindness, like you said, it doesn't have to be all the time, but every now and again, just try it. It goes a million, and the person who's on the receiving end, because that's where it come from me is I've had the random acts of kindness done for me during my thing, in terms of what I'm going through, and I know like how amazing it is to literally have that done for you. So if I can replicate that feeling that I've had, and again to receive, but to give, and I feel the feelings even stronger when you do give. I just think it's such a magical thing, and I say the world would be a better place if everyone
yeah,
had kindness. And but there are so many kind people out there at the same time. You know,
yeah.
like you see with this community thing with Team DDB, the kindness and the support and everything is just phenomenal. It's just mind blowing, really, how many kind people there are in the world. So
So tell us a bit more about, you know, what, you know, Team DDB, and you know, some of the you know, stuff you guys have done.
yeah, so yeah, like I said, started with a park run and it just developed. We've had charity football matches, people do marathons.
Were you on the pitch?
Um, No, I was just coaching because if it was
Oh,
just
the gaffer.
yeah. Unfortunately, because I've had 4 surgeries, my football days are over. So
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
we've had park runs, we've got merchandise. You know, there's people baking cakes, people selling you know third hand, second hand clothes, I should say, not third hand, could be third hand, but yeah, just but yeah, just could go on, and it's just snowballed. And people initially start with family and friends, but then people have really kind of got into the journey, and I've started like strangers, and I've met so many good friends along the way. So there's that element. I've talked about the random acts of kindness that we do, and then there's the bowel cancer awareness side. So again, we've been on national and local media and so on, been on the One Show and local news and in different papers. Again, it's all good. Just us talking about my journey, you know, talking about hope and positivity, but also how important it is to get checked out for not even for bowel cancer, for any type of cancer. If you don't feel right, go and see the doctor and get yourself checked out, because one of the things that plays on my mind, and I can't beat myself up about it, is I did delay because I assumed it was something else.
Yeah,
So months and months passed, and I often think to myself, if I'd have gone, let's say in the May June time instead of going in October, or you know, and actually then being diagnosed in the January, what did those lost months cause the cancer to spread to my liver? It could have already spread to my liver, so I don't know when I initially went to the doctors. But at the same time, you want to take that risk out of the
yeah,
equation. If you don't feel well, go and get checked out. If you're not happy with what the doctor's saying, don't sit on it. If you still don't feel right, force them. You know, get a stool sample, get blood tests, ask them for a colonoscopy. There's multiple. I'm referring to bowel cancer now, but there's
yeah,
multiple ways of doing it, really. And the symptoms is like a heavy feeling in your stomach, feeling lethargic. Sometimes you feel like there's a lump in your stomach. Passing blood is probably the biggest one, really. Cramping, stomach cramping, and so on. But if you get any of that and you're feeling any of that, and there's, it's amazing how many people I go and see and they say, oh, I've had stomach issues. Like yesterday, I had sat 2 week meetings with work, and 2 people both said to me, I'm having issues. So, both of them are getting checked out, which is the best thing. But I said, don't rest on it. Make sure they see it through and make sure you're happy. 99 out of 100, it's going to turn out to be something trivial. So don't worry, but get yourself checked out.
Yeah.
So
it's like that weird, that kind of classic, blokey attitude to things, like, yeah, no, I'll be all right in 2 days, or, definitely, like, yeah, it'll be fine, sort of thing. But I think that is, really good advice, because there is no harm in just, knowing, the worst, the best case scenario is, nothing. So yeah, there's no harm in getting checked out. I do want to know, though, in terms of, well, actually having cancer, is there anything, how do you notice, like, how people are towards you? Like, is there certain incidences where, like, I've seen I call it quite, I get this quite a lot. It's the head tilt, like, when, when someone's like, I go, oh yeah, my mom passed or whatever, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, that kind of classic.
yeah.
Do you notice people are a bit different towards you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was going off about a tangent there about obviously awareness and stuff, but with Team DDB, because I've made my journey so public, because I want to raise awareness, I can't really be overly critical about the way people are. It's tough because, especially like locally, more so just like locally in the local town and stuff, people, because I'm putting myself out there, people who typically 5 years ago wouldn't say hello to you, but would now make an effort to say hello to you and ask you how you are. And sometimes in certain situations it can be embarrassing if you in the queue in Tesco and someone's asking you how you're getting on. But then at the same time, like I said, I can't complain, because I've been so public with it. There's people I know who have cancer and literally are very private. They don't want anyone to know, and I respect that. It's how you deal with it and how best it is to deal with it. And where I kind of got it from was that there was a girl called Kelly Smith, and she got diagnosed the same time as Bal Babe, and they were very close. But I got close to Kelly. They're all the same. We're all in the same bowel cancer support group. But I got close with Kelly, and Kelly was very similar in that she was very public. She was very good on awareness. She was good at positivity and giving back and kindness and so on. And I just saw her and thought, wow, that's amazing. And that's why I went the way I did, in opposed to just kind of being insular and just dealing with it. And like I said, from my personal point of view, it's been probably the biggest and best thing that I've ever done. Sometimes with my family, my partner Jane, she can say, there's that thing of, don't get too heavily involved, because we've also got our family time, and I get that, but it also is so good for me in terms of my mindset, and I try to explain that it's good for me I need it basically to justify where I am. And again, I keep back to justification. So
that is completely fine. It's as I said, I really love the way you speak and your your approach to your journey. Before we do wrap this up, I do want to ask one thing, and this would, what advice would you give to someone who has just been diagnosed with cancer?
So a lot of people ask me this, and I get like a lot of people reaching out, and they want like a magic ingredient and stuff, like what is it and stuff. For me, it's just been join a support group, which for whatever cancer you've got, learn about it, become an expert at it, learn what's out there, learn what what options you've got, because that's so important. I think just don't worry about what's going to happen, because 96% of what you worry about don't. I think a lot of people will find that in terms of when you face adversity, I think the way in which you react to adversity is important, and I think you will find that you will become resilient. And then just get out and live your life. Try and get into positive situations. Go for walks. Get vitamin D. Be around nature. Just appreciate everything around you. And that's all I've kind of done and followed, really. And that's what I would say to anyone. You know, people talk about CBD oil or supplements, and that may work for some people. I've just literally followed what the doctors have told me and tried to live the happiest life I can, and just appreciate everything. So that's what I would say, mate.
Well, honestly, thank you so much for everything. I mean, you know, you're an inspiration, and it's a privilege to you know have a chat with you today, mate. So just yeah,
Can I just say,
big
Joe, as well, just quickly? I know we were wrapping up, but just very quickly, I just wanted to say that, like, when we had the original podcast, I've been so impressed by you. I think you're inspiration too, and I think your mum would be very proud of you, mate. You're doing amazing. So keep doing what you're doing, and it's been an honour for me to come on with you. So
thank you, mate. Oh, that's gonna get me tearing up. But
you are, mate. You're a great man. You're a great guy. So thanks.
thank you so much. And yeah.
I just want you to find your truth and stick to it. I know you'll be okay. I know it. From the bottom of my heart, I know it. I love you, Baba.